Good evening and welcome to the Cedar Falls Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for this Wednesday, September 25th, 2019. Ms. Howard, could we have the roll, please?
Yes. Atkins, Hartley,
Here.
Lynch,
Here.
Prideaux,
Here.
Holst,
Here.
Leeper, Wingert,
Here.
Saul, Larson.
Here.
Thank you very much. And we have a new commission member, newly appointed by the mayor and council, Amanda Lynch. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you very much.
We're very happy to have you on the commission.
Me too.
All right. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the September 11th, 2019 meeting. Is there any corrections or a move to approve?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor signify by aye.
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 Opposed? And so that motion carries. At this time, I'd open the microphone to any public comments. If there's anyone here who would like to address the commission on an item, on anything that's not on the agenda tonight. Seeing none, we'll move on from that into old business. Under old business, we have two items, one of which is continuing to be deferred, the Panther West preliminary plat, and then we have the Creekside Technology Center Master Plan. Who's going to
Shane's gonna,
address
Graham's gonna.
that? Shane, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Holst. So if you remember, the kind of consultant Confluence was here 2 weeks ago to give the presentation about the master plan. Again, a little bit of background. There was a memo included in the packet. Again, the city purchased about 157 acres within the last 5 to 7 years near the corner of Hudson Road and West Ridgeway Avenue. City's been holding on to it with plans for future development. We've been leasing it out as farm ground and felt the time was right to start looking into what future uses we may see for this property, which led us to sending out an RFP looking for consultants to help draft what's considered this master plan, what kind of uses we see, road layouts, things like that. And so that's what led to the master plan, the draft master plan. Again, they were here 2 weeks ago and gave an overview of that. And then I also sent you the actual master plan document itself. Asked you to review that over the past 2 weeks and then bring it back today with any comments or questions with the goal of moving this forward to City Council. And we would like to, the consultant will actually give this a similar presentation to the City Council, and then we'll be asking City Council to formally adopt the master plan, which then moving forward on that property gives us a guide as to how we want to see that property develop over the upcoming years.
Okay. So, any comments from commission members? One thing I would just, I thought Brad made a good point last time about the kind of the curb appeal or the drive-by on Highway 20. You know, it seems like it was very internally focused, you know, kind of a lot of good things about it, but it didn't, you know, this kind of, were we showing the backside to Highway 20, you know, and we'll thought about that. And I guess, and kind of along that same vein, I was thinking, you know, it's almost kind of maybe the same, a little bit concerned towards Ridgeway too, you know, because those are kind of main drags, and a lot of people are going to experience what happens in this area by driving by. You know, it's very automotive focused, obviously. So thinking of how, you know, how those two, how you see it from both those locations, I think is pretty important too. Something that maybe could be addressed a little bit more than what it is now. Any other thoughts or comments from commission members? So we're looking for a motion to move this forward to the city council. Correct?
I have a question, and we can make a motion first. That'd be fine. I'll make a motion to approve and send this.
All right, we have a motion to approve the Creekside Technology Center Master Plan. Is there a second?
I'd second.
Okay, is there further discussion?
My question was about the timing. Just curiosity if there was a best guess now as to the timing and phasing and any redevelopment of some of the bike paths in that area, and then obviously that that gateway kind of opportunity and signage. Just curious about what the high-level thinking is there as far as timing.
That's something we're currently analyzing. We have a couple different projects going on with the industrial park expansion too, so we're probably going to do these in a couple different phases, with most likely our industrial park expansion occurring first. So most likely this area will start phase 1. If you've read the report, they break this down into 5 different phases. And if you look at the years, I mean, they're showing phase 5 in 2076. So we don't anticipate it taking this long. We hope not. But I think the anticipation is for phase 1 to start on that east parcel, probably in the next 2 to 3 years is when we would start that. Again, just with some budgeting with the industrial park and looking at financing and things like that, and how we want to phase both of those projects. We're going to probably start that one first and then get with phase 1 on this one. And again, we hope this doesn't take that long to develop, that they're just looking at like long-term development plan, but we'll probably do these phases a little bit quicker than they recommend. They even recommend phase 2, which is the east half of the east parcel, in 20 years. I mean, we're hoping that might be maybe 5 years out, instead of 20 years. So we're not going to start this next year. We'll have a current lease in place for the farming of that property next year already, and then start budgeting for actual work to start probably in the next couple years.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it'll be faster than that too.
My only question was on process of trying to sell this as developmental ground. What's the process with that? Do you guys go seek and call on campuses or companies that try to bring them into this area, or do we sit and wait pretty much and see what happens?
One of the aspects of this plan was to develop a marketing brochure. So that's something we can either, put it either on our website, or we can look at doing like email blasts, or taking it to whether it's conferences or, so there's a couple different things that we're thinking about doing, whether or not it's taking it with us and being proactive about it, or, letting and seeing if someone contacts us. So we have a couple different ways that we're looking to approach it. So both with us being proactive about it and if someone just calls us and asks us about it.
And a follow-up to that, I assume there's going to be incentives for these companies to relocate to this area, that kind of thing. It's probably not been developed yet, but for people to move large campuses like this, I assume a lot of times it takes city incentives, development agreements, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's something we'll, in our current industrial park and our technology park with offices, we do have a set of guidelines that council has adopted for the policy on what we include for incentives. So we would possibly look at some incentives for, depending on the use. Now, typically for commercial type uses, the city doesn't offer incentives. So if we get a restaurant or something like that, but if it's like a large corporate campus or a professional office, then that's something I think we would look at.
Something that wasn't, I don't think, addressed fully in the presentation at our last meeting was the restoration of Dry Run Creek, and I just wanted to note that their plan and the research that they provided is very thorough and thoughtful. So I was just really appreciative of some of the ecological impact that this project might have. So I'm appreciative to them.
Any other thoughts or comments? It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of the Creekside Technology Center Master Plan. If there's no other comments, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Randall, we have all ayes. So that motion carries. And that concludes our old business for tonight. Under the new business calendar, we have a Central Business District facade review for 202 Main Street. And Iris is going to introduce that. All right, thank you, Iris.
Thank you, Mr. Holst. So the property owner of 202 Main Street, the Horny Toad American Bar and Grill, is requesting a facade review for a new wall and projecting sign on the side facade of the building. The property is located in the Central Business District overlay, so the proposed signage that projects over the right-of-way does require planning and zoning and city council review. So that's why we have this item on the agenda tonight. The proposed signage would mark the side entrance into the building on the East Second Street facade side. It would advertise the tenant, the Horny Toad. Here on the left is an image of the aerial view of the buildings. You can see it's quite set back from the Main Street and Third Street intersection, so drawing some attention to Second Street, which is nice, again, to that side entrance into the restaurant. So that would be opened up for potential citizens to move in and out of to enter that space. The projecting sign is approximately 2.5 feet wide by 7 feet tall, and the wall sign is approximately 5 feet wide by a half foot in width. Both signs will be lighted, and as shown here, will be put above that side entrance, as I noted before. The Central Business District does require that projecting signs cannot exceed 40 square feet per sign face, and that wall signs cannot exceed 10% of that total wall area. The size requirements have been met for both of the proposed signs. The projecting sign itself is also required to be at least 10 feet above the sidewalk for clearance purposes, and cannot project more than 5 feet or half the width of the sidewalk over the right-of-way, whichever is less. The proposed sign has a clearance of 12 feet and projects about 2 feet 9 inches over the sidewalk. So the placement of the signs also meet the code requirements. So with that, staff recommends approval of the proposed signage at 202 Main Street.
Thank you, Iris. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it to the commission.
Looks-
Discussion?
Looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I think it adds a lot, really, to put the signage and use the door there to a side of a building that is kind of,
Blank otherwise.
yeah. Yeah, I would move to approve.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. And all eyes on this item, so that will move forward at the council. Our next item of business is the Central Business District facade review for 100 East Second Street, Suite 105. And Iris, you're up again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holst. So the property owner of 100 East Second Street is requesting a facade review for a new projecting sign for Suite 105 for the building's new tenant, Andy's Bike Shop. The property is located, like the previous one, in the Central Business District overlay, so review and approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council would be required for a sign of this nature. On the slide is an image showing what is being proposed. Again, they're proposing to install a projecting sign. It'll be aluminum and lighted above the entrance to Suite 105. The sign is approximately 3 feet wide and a foot tall, and it will be placed just over 10 feet above the sidewalk. It will extend 3 feet into the right-of-way. So as outlined in the previous presentation, in terms of square footage and placement, this sign also meets the Central Business District requirements, and staff would be recommending approval.
Thank you, Iris. Anyone who would like to address the commission on this item? Yep, seeing none, bring it back to the commission.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? See it pretty straightforward, so go ahead and vote. And we have all eyes on that one also. We're on a roll. Our last item of new business is a Central Business District facade and site plan review for 203, 205 Main Street. Iris, you're doing all the work tonight.
Mr. Holst. So the owner of this property, 203-205 Main Street, is requesting a site plan review to redevelop the entire facade of the building and convert what was the rehearsal space of the museum for the Cedar Falls Municipal Band into residential apartments. The property itself is located in the Central Business District overlay in the 200 block of Main Street. Like in the previous cases, any substantial improvement, including signage, does have to go through P&Z and City Council for approval. And change in use, specifically to residential use, also triggers that review. So that is why this request is in front of us tonight. I will first go through the facade details of what will be done, and then after that, go into the use, and more specifically, what they're doing to the upstairs. So here's an image on the slide showing what the site currently looks like and then what is being proposed. The applicant is proposing to demo a portion of the existing facade to make room for larger storefront windows, install the original windows on the second level, and add new trim as well as a masonry veneer to the top of the building. When considering a proposal in the Central Business District overlay, the design criteria of that section need to be evaluated. On this slide, I've outlined the 10 different design criteria that staff reviews for these type of proposals. The staff report goes into detail on each of these items, and I will just touch on the highlights of the proposal. As noted before, the applicant is proposing to demo a portion of the existing storefront and install large storefront windows. This change and their design are consistent with historic storefront designs, elements that are present in the other buildings surrounding it and in the downtown itself, and are consistent with best practices for storefront design. The change increases the transparency of the facade, or really the storefront, to 70%, which is what new construction is required to meet. So it's a great change in terms of view into the storefront and an improvement to the use of that bottom floor. General design does follow the requirements of the district. When it comes to the materials, there will be a thin brick veneer that will be placed over the top half of the facade with glass and smooth-faced painted cement board with aluminum comprising the bottom half. Just wanted to note that we did explore looking at a full-width brick for the top half, but due to the current state of the building and the wall, that option was wouldn't be possible for this facade. The proposed materials and their neutral colors are in keeping with the district and do meet the requirements. In addition to the materials, the use of the trim and masonry veneer also add additional architectural details and interest to the building. This is in keeping with the character of the area and again with the best storefront practices when it comes to design. Although a tenant for the storefront has not yet been found, the applicant is showing a placeholder, a wall and projecting sign over the entrance of the building. The hope is that when a tenant is found, as long as they propose something that follows what is shown here, then it would just be a staff level review, so it wouldn't have to go through P&Z and City Council. That said, if they do show something significantly different in size or shape or placement, it would have to come through again. In summary, all the design criteria have been met of the Central Business District. And again, if you're interested in more detail, they're outlined individually within the staff report. With that, I'd like to move on to look at the proposed use of the upstairs. So the second part really is then converting, as noted before, that rehearsal space, the museum used by the Cedar Falls Municipal Band, into 2 residential apartments, each with 2 bedrooms. Both apartments would have 2 bedrooms. It's kind of divided down the horizontal middle in that sense. So this is a proposed floor plan layout. The change of use from non-residential to residential does require review and approval by P&Z and City Council. Residential uses are permitted and encouraged to be established on upper floors of downtown commercial buildings, and the proposed change in use would be in keeping with the intent of the code and is appropriate for a Main Street building. The change in use also triggers a review of parking requirements. Apartments are required to provide 2 parking spaces per unit, and really it's in addition to that per bedroom. So if there's 3 bedrooms, 3 parking spaces would be needed. In this particular case, with 2 apartments with 2 bedrooms, 4 parking spaces would be required for this proposal. The building currently has 4 parking spaces off the alley stacked. In the image to the bottom right of the screen, I've shown you where those are along the back. Those spaces will be kept and will be servicing the building. So the 4 spaces required for this change are already in place and will be maintained. So both the change in use and parking for this type of change, the upstairs is in keeping with the code and does meet the requirements. Staff recommends approval of the submitted proposal to redevelop the facade of 203-205 Main Street and convert the upstairs into 2 two-bedroom apartments.
Thank you, Iris. Anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission on this item? Seeing none, back to the commission.
I just think it's a really, 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 really good improvement to that property, and I think I would vote to move forward.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? And just echo that it really looks like a nice project. We'll go ahead and vote. And we have all ayes on that, so that motion carries. We'll move forward to City Council. That then concludes our regular business for tonight. We're on to the commission updates. Karen, I guess back to you.
Okay, we have just one update for tonight, and we just went ahead and put that on the agenda. A little bit unusual tonight. We wanted to have a public meeting to present the public review draft for the downtown vision plan, the Imagine Downtown Vision Plan. There's been quite a bit of public input on this plan, and we had a week-long design charrette back in June, and in April before that we had several public meetings, a lot of stakeholder interviews. So there's a lot of energy behind this plan, a lot of interest in that. So at 6:30 tonight, we're going to have you adjourn tonight, but we hope you all stay for that presentation. Mr. Jeffrey Farrell from the consultant team is here to present basically what's in the plan and give people a little guide to what to look for in the plan and an overview of the highlights of that plan. So that'll be available then on the project webpage after today, so people can download it. They can then, this presentation tonight will also be on television, and so people can review it, and we'll have that link in the future on the project web page as well. So this is intended to be a public review period for the next several weeks, and then we'll bring it back to the commission on your next meeting for further discussion, and hopefully then by the end of October, you'd have a recommendation to council on that. So that's just a basic overview of what's going to occur here. So we will start that presentation at 6:30 this evening.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Well, we're looking forward to it. It should be exciting. Is there anything else from the commission? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.